This Wabash Carnegie Library Oral History Program, Saturday, January 19th, 1980, interviewing Michael L. Davis, Wabash, Indiana, at the Wabash Carnegie Public Library. Mike, I think the first thing that we're going to start off with is we're going to ask you about your mother and father and grandmother and grandfather and names, and tell me about the family history and so forth and how they got here.
My mother's grandfather or father is Charles Bowen. He is a veterinarian over in Amboy, and his wife's name is Ethel. My father's, and they're both living. My father's parents are both dead, and it was Dutch Davis. That wasn't his. I don't know what his real name was. And Hattie Davis, and they're both deceased. And my grandfather's father, I think it was his father, came over and settled on, just took a couple hundred acres around Amboy and Peru in that area. And they've been in the family for, must have been his grandfather, 1, 2, 3, 4 generations now.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, his name is Eva Davis, Bowen Davis, and my dad was Herman. He's dead. And he was an electrician with Northern Indiana Public Service Company. And my mother worked at the post office. My parents had 7 girls and 3 boys, mm-hmm. and they lived in Logansport, Goodland, Monticello. No, they didn't live in Logansport. I was born there. They lived in Goodland, Monticello, and most of the time in Francisville, Indiana.
Why did they move around?
Well, when he got the job with NIPSCO, mm-hmm. he used to be a lineman, then he was transferred to somewhere else, then he was made an electrician.
In your family history, background, and so forth, were there any family stories about a great-grandfather or grandfather, or somebody was a horse thief or a Civil War veteran?
No, on my mother's side, we are related to Roger Williams, the founder of Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And we have a book, gosh, I can't even remember. There was a book written that dates back, and it starts over in England, mm-hmm. and then it discusses a little bit Roger Williams and comes back over, mm-hmm. or carries on.
Family members now, which one of the family members looked like your father and which one looked like your mother?
I suppose I have a brother named Don. He looks the most like my father. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, my mother. I guess the oldest daughter, Sharon.
Looks like your mother.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, then, did you visit with your grandparents a lot?
Yes, I grew up in Francisville, and we would go there on long weekends or over the summer. It's a big deal to go to the farm, mm-hmm. spend a couple weeks with them. Mm-hmm. And my cousins all lived around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When were you born then?
In 1948, September the 1st, 1948. I was born in the Logansport Hospital, not the state hospital, but the Carroll County Hospital.
Yeah. Where did you fit in the family? Right?
I was number 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, yeah. Mm-hmm. And
it's funny, the last 3 kids are left-handed, and the first 7 kids are all right-handed.
Oh, really?
I don't know why that is.
That's unusual, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They had no stories then from Grandma and Grandpa's day or anything that you can remember. Of course, probably being the 8th out of 10, you were probably lucky to get something to eat.
Yeah, that's right. I eat fast. That's true. Yeah. I have asked my grandfather and my grandmother a couple times about how they met, and they had a horse that they went out on dates, and that was kind of interesting. But as far as Civil War hero or trader or horse thief, no, I don't think so. Just kind of average farmers.
Yeah. How did your mother and father meet then? The best.
They went to high school together at Amboy.
At Amboy.
I think there were like 6 in one class and 8 in the other. Very small school.
Mm-hmm. But they met there and then got married after high school. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was it unusual?
Well, I don't even know if my mother finished high school. I think she could have been. I don't know. I think she went part of her senior year, but she didn't finish it.
is
And my dad was going to go to college. He was a very good athlete.
mhm.
And he got married instead, and his coach said, that's a mistake. You should go to college. And
Mhm.
he said, no.
Did your father, on your father's side of the family now, did your father have brothers?
Yes, my father has 3 brothers, I think. 2 brothers.
Uh-huh.
2 brothers and 1 sister.
Now they all still live.
They're still living.
Yeah. And your grandparents, his parents,
His
are dead.
parents are dead, right? They died. I don't know. In the early, my grandfather died in 59 or 8 or something like that. My grandmother died in 65 or something.
What did they die from, that you remember?
I think my grandmother died of old age. She was just terminally old or something. I don't know. And my grandfather, I'm not sure what he died of. A heart attack or something like that.
Where are they buried?
Around Amboy. There's a name of the cemetery, but I don't know what it's called. But it's around Amboy.
Well, the reason I ask these questions is they're important 50 years from now when someone's looking for parentage
right.
and grandparents and everything else. But they're around Amboy someplace.
There are several old cemeteries right around Amboy.
Was it unusual to, in 1948, to be coming from such a large family? And
I don't know. The people that I grew up with in school, there were several large families. Now, not any as large as ours, I don't think, or not. The poor people really had the big families, and the more wealthy people had 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah.
So you can tell where we fit in.
Okay.
We were so poor that I couldn't pay attention in high school. Yeah. That's how poor we were.
Okay, tell me about the first things you remember growing up. Something must have happened when you. What do you first remember?
Christmas, I think, is the first thing that I can remember.
What do you remember about Christmas and what happened in the family and so forth?
Just everybody getting up at 6 o'clock or real early, it seemed, and my mom and dad yelling at everybody, get back in bed. So then we'd all go back to bed, and then we'd get up again. They'd tell us go back to bed. It took about 4 times, and finally they said, "The hell with it."
Everybody up.
Everybody up. So everybody got presents, and it was a lot of fun. I thought everybody scattered around the house and having a good time. And the meals, you had to eat quick. You just didn't get a lot.
Was your mother a good cook?
Yes, in fact, she owned a restaurant for a while.
Oh, did she?
And then sometimes she would.
With 10 kids, she owned a restaurant. She was really a bear for punishment.
She owned a restaurant, and her older daughters, would work in the restaurant, so she had pretty much free help.
Yeah.
And I was like 4 or 5 at that time, 6 maybe, so I didn't have to work. I would have to pick up pop bottles or something like that.
Yeah. This was in Francisville also.
Yeah. Right.
As you remember at home, did you have any unusual customs at any of the holidays or Christmas or anything like that, or church celebrations or anything that you did that the family looked forward to, birthdays or?
No. I remember once when I was growing up, I decided to have a surprise birthday party for myself.
For yourself?
And I invited some friends, and the surprise was I didn't tell my mother or any of my sisters.
Yeah.
And so these kids started coming with birthday presents.
Yeah.
And they said, "What the hell's going on?" And I said, "Oh, we're having a birthday party." So then we had to get a cake and everything.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to them, I think.
Okay. So there was nothing unusual. You didn't have any, like in our family, birthdays, the kids got to call for their own meal. In other words, they could order what they wanted for their birthday. We all ate what he wanted that day. If it happened to be scrambled eggs with strawberry pie together, why?
We were just lucky to have a meal.
Okay. Okay, then you went to school. Tell me about going to grade school and then high school.
Grade school, I started out in Francisville and then ended up there too, but nothing
unusual.
Mm-mm.
Did you have any teachers in grade school that had any effect on you, good or bad?
Mrs. Hedges. She was my first grade teacher, I think, and the only reason I remember that name is when I go to Francisville now. She lives right outside of Bowen, and I drive by her house, and I can, for 10 years now. I've driven by that house, and I know where she lives, and
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen her since the first grade or so, but I do
Yeah.
go by the house a lot.
You know where she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But nothing eventful or uneventful
No.
in grade school. And then you went on to high school?
We didn't, it was, the school that I attended was from 1 to 12 grades.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had all,
Everything, you went right to the same building?
oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There was no kindergarten.
Yeah.
So you went to the first grade. And there was no junior high and high school. And everybody was together. Recess, and
Yeah.
it was crazy.
How large a school was it?
I don't know, it must have been 200 or so kids.
All the way through from first
Yeah.
grade through high school?
Yeah.
That'd be a relatively small
Yeah.
school then.
Yeah.
Is it still going, or is it
It's an
consolidated?
elementary. It's West Central
Yeah.
now.
Just
It's
a-
it burned a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did it?
The old high school.
Yeah.
I guess they're using churches and
Yeah.
houses.
No, I'll be there.
And the kids, somebody's telling me that when the school burned, the buses were just coming in,
Mhm.
and the kids were yelling and saying, "My dream came true."
At last. huh?
Yeah.
What did you do in high school that was unusual? Dramatics, sports?
Well, I went to.
With
I
a small
ran-
group, everybody had to do everything,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure.
right. I played basketball, and we didn't have football.
Uh-huh.
Just basketball, baseball, track. I ran track. I didn't play baseball.
Uh-huh.
I was very good at track. In fact, I thought it was so easy, something was wrong,
Mhm.
because starting in the 6th grade, I started running for the 7th and 8th graders.
Mhm.
And I kept getting these blue ribbons, and I thought, gosh, this is easy.
Uh-huh. What happened?
And I just kept getting blue ribbons until my junior year. I went to Alaska for a year. I spent my junior year in Kodiak, Alaska. I lived with one of my sisters and her family up there.
Mhm.
And that was really a treat to.
How did this come about?
Well, I just usually after one of our family, my older sisters or brothers would move, we would often go stay with them for a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And I went up to Alaska during the summer,
Mhm.
and just stayed the year then.
And what was your experiences in Alaska going to school there?
That was right after the 1963 or 4 earthquake, and there was still a lot of damage there by the time I got there. That was a lot of fun. Never met any Eskimos before. Met a few Eskimos. A lot of different in the Navy. They were stationed up there. Filipinos, a lot of Filipinos, and just a variety of people that in a small town in Indiana there's not the opportunity to meet them.
Anything unusual? The winter was unusual?
Yeah, it was not as cold as I thought it would be, but the wind would get up to 100 miles an hour. That would not be unusual.
Uh-huh.
And it was really strange whenever we had an away basketball game, which I didn't play basketball up there, but whenever we did have an away basketball game, we had to fly
Uh-huh.
because we were the only school on the island.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't have track. It was just basketball, no baseball. I think that was the only sport because everything was away. You know? And nobody wanted to fly in to play us, so we'd have to.
Yeah.
And then one time, I was in the band. I played the drums. One time, our band went to Anchorage for I forget now, some sort of a show or something. And that was kind of fun to go with a bunch of kids, go to Anchorage.
Mm-hmm. Was there a lot of snow that year then?
No, not in Kodiak.
When,
A couple inches, but no foots.
yeah. So you were sort of shocked then that
That's-
you thought you were going up with igloos.
Yeah,
and,
I never saw an
mountains.
igloo.
Yeah.
And Kodiak Bear, I went to sometime during the year. I became a naval cadet. That's a high school kid who thinks about joining the Navy. And we went down to San Diego and to the big Navy base into Seattle. And I saw Kodiak Bear in the San Diego Zoo. That's the closest.
That's the first
I
one you
smelled
said.
more.
Huh?
I smelled many more than that. But
Okay, after your junior year in Kodiak, what happened?
I came back to Francisville. While I was in Kodiak, I was elected president of our senior class in Francisville while I was up there. And the principal said, no, you can't do that. You got to elect somebody who's here.
Yeah.
So when I came back, in the fall. I was elected vice president. I thought that was stupid that
Yeah.
this turkey wouldn't let me be president.
Absentia.
Yeah, right.
And then you go to senior high at Francisville.
Yeah, senior year of
Yeah,
Franceville.
and
Right.
graduate.
Right.
And
In 1966.
1966. Had you planned to go to college or anything
Yes.
at that time?
Mhm.
Had any other members of the family gone to college?
Yes, one of my oldest sister went to nurses training, and she's an RN, and I don't know if that was a 2 or 4 year. I think it was only a 2 year course.
Mhm.
That was in the late 50s, so I'm sure it was.
And she was the first one in the family to.
Yeah,
Go to
she was the
college.
oldest one, and my grandfather helped her.
Yeah.
A lot. They were very close. My
Yeah.
mother's dad and her.
Yeah.
And then I have a brother. My oldest brother went to the army, and after he got out of the army, he got married and worked a couple of years. Then he went to college.
He graduated also.
Yeah, he's principal at Monticello
Yeah.
Elementary. School.
Okay, then you would really be the third member of the
Yeah,
family to
right.
break away and go
Right.
to college out of the 10. Yeah. And was this financial strain, or how was the family going to handle this?
I borrowed all the money.
Borrowed all the money.
I worked during the summer, and I worked while I was going to school too.
Uh-huh.
But my parents didn't pay for it. They would send. I remember, it was, if I would make $10, that would be great for a week to have $10 to blow.
Yeah.
And it got so bad, I wrote my parents a letter, and it said, "Dear Mom and Dad, man cannot live by bread alone." Mike.
That helped.
And I got $10 in the mail.
Yeah. How did you pick your college then?
My brother went to Manchester College,
Uh-huh.
and I went to. So I thought, well, I'd be good. I wanted to go to a small school.
Yeah.
At that time, I thought, what's $1,800 a semester or whatever it was?
Yeah.
I didn't have any concept that it would be as expensive as it turned out to be.
Yeah.
So I kept borrowing money and spending money and borrowing more money, and finally I borrowed it, got out. I went to one summer session, so I graduated in the fall, at the end of the fall rather than in the spring.
Yeah.
So that helped me get a job here.
Picking Manchester College, was there any reason for Manchester College other than your
No.
brother had gone there? Was church affiliation
No.
or anything
No.
else? Had the family been
No,
pretty religiously oriented any one
No.
way or the other?
no. My brothers and sisters, most of my family's Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Because they married a Catholic, they became a Catholic.
Mhm.
I go to the Christian church,
Mhm.
and that's the one I went to in Francisville.
Mhm.
And my mom and dad would either go to that one or the Baptist church.
Mhm.
They were not too theologically constrained in any way.
Yeah.
And basically, I think most of them are Catholic.
Mhm.
No agnostics or
Yeah.
atheists or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, but that is odd that your brother picked Manchester.
Well, now the reason he picked it is because his wife's family belonged to the Church of the Brethren,
Mhm.
and he went there because his father-in-law had gone there, and his wife had gone there, and her sisters had gone there, and her brother had gone there.
Yeah. So there was
So
some
he went-
family tradition. Yeah.
For him to go. But
Yeah.
as far as I was concerned, I just thought, well, maybe I would have an in since he went. Props would know me or something.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And
Well, when you get out of college now, how much debt do you have when you get out?
God, I don't know. I would say, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000. I forget now. It's all paid off. And
Did that overwhelm you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought when I got, as a former school board member, you would like this. I think my first paycheck for 2 weeks when I got a teaching job in Wabash was $140 some for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I thought, my God, I'm a millionaire. I could start paying bills and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's $144 was a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah. So you get out, and what do you do when you're finished school?
Well, I graduated. We had a January interim.
Right.
We had the first one when I was there. So I went to Washington, D.C., and I did mine on pretrial detention, which was one of Richard Nixon's big things. He wanted to put people in jail before they were tried. And I interviewed several people. I interviewed William O. Douglas, who at the time was...
Now this was on their January break,
Right.
their 30-day break
That's
from
right.
college. Yeah.
Right.
And this was your senior year?
Right.
Okay.
And I was very successful in getting some interviews set up. William O. Douglas, Supreme Court. Tom Clark, former Justice of the Supreme Court. A couple senators, Andy Jacobs, congressman, I interviewed him. And I asked him, as I did everyone, if they had any extra tickets for the State of the Union address the president was going to be giving. And everyone said no. And I asked Andy Jacobs, and he said, I have one. So he let me have one ticket, and I get to see Nixon deliver his 1970 State of the Union address, which was set beside a congressman's wife and a kid, and it was real exciting.
That'll be nice. Well, when you came back, what did you do with the material then?
I gave it to my prof, is that what you mean? And I think I got an A- or B+ or something like that on it.
Did that interest you to go on to do something else, or
Well,
I was something interesting at the time?
The pretrial detention.
Yeah.
Well, didn't like Nixon, and I was already involved in politics. I had coordinated Robert Kennedy's campaign when he was running for president
At Manchester.
at Manchester.
And how successful were you on that?
I don't know. I'm sure we lost Manchester, but that one precinct, I'm sure we won.
For Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
Well, then, what do you do when you're out of school now?
Well, I was hanging around for a couple of weeks trying to find a job. This was in the first part of February. Or last part of January, first part of February. And it was lucky Jane Baldwin got sick. I mean, it was unfortunate for her, but she got sick and couldn't continue to teach. And Dr. Walter Kent called me up and asked me if I would come for an interview, and I said yes, so I came, and he talked to me. Then I went and talked to Bill Kramer, who was principal of the junior high school, and talked with him, and they said, we'll hire you. And then so about February the 1st, I started. I couldn't believe that we had like 35 kids in the class, and big classes, and they liked my first set of students liked getting a teacher who was going to be with them more than 3 or 4 days a week. So that helped.
You had a little more continuity. Yeah. Did you run into any problems being a new teacher?
Well, yeah. The way the scheduling was set up, I would have I had 180 or so students in a week because I had some students on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Then I had other set of students on Tuesday and Thursday, and it was I had a lot of report cards to put a B or A or F or whatever it was. And plus, when there were several classes, I had 35 students, and that was difficult just to get them quiet long enough that I could say something. But it was fun.
Where had you done your student teaching?
I did my student teaching at Monticello at the high school, Twin Lakes High School, at the junior, senior level.
Were you surprised when you came into a teaching situation and they told you 180 children? And
no, I just thought, oh, this must be normal.
Yeah. You didn't have any problems or anything else, and then obviously you came down here and got a place to live. And
I think the first, I got a place here, and I stayed there about a month or 3 weeks. It was filthy dirty, but on 140 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Then I got another place, and it was terrible. Then I got a third on West Hill Street, right across from the Ford big house.
Yeah. And that's where you lived.
That's where I lived my first year. Yeah.
Well, what happened to your teaching career, and what did you do in the summer then, and so forth?
Well, my first summer, I was so rich, getting all this money that I thought I'd take a little vacation over the summer.
Yeah.
So I took a motorcycle and drove down to Dallas, Texas, Denton, Texas. And I had some relatives down there, and I spent, 4 weeks with them or something. But after that, I came back, started teaching, got involved in politics.
Did you know that you had a contract then when you came back?
Yeah.
Yeah. You knew that you were going to stay on then?
Well, I didn't know when I'm not sure when I found that out.
But Jane Baldwin retired or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you took her place.
No, she didn't retire. She taught a couple more years, but somebody else quit. Jay Huffman, I think, quit or
And
something like that. Then I took his place. Yeah.
Okay. And then you go back to the classroom again the following
Right.
year after the vacation, and
Right.
then do you start getting involved in politics right away?
Yeah.
How did this come about?
Well, I was teaching social civics, I guess was the name, of course, and I saw this lady's picture in the newspaper, the Democrat county chairman, Gussie Boyzon, and we were talking about politics, so I thought I'd call her up and ask her if she would come in and talk to the class. So I did, and she did, and that was enjoyable, and I asked her, when do you have meetings or whatever, and she told me, and she invited me to the next meeting, so I started attending.
And you got active right away then,
Right,
basically.
right,
Yeah. And
right.
did you step onto any committees or
No,
anything? Nothing
no.
at first?
I had met Luke Dernbaugh, and he and his wife were very, Selma, were very friendly, and they talked to me in a strange community, that's always nice. But the first person I met in Wabash was you, and I bought a TV from you to watch the high school basketball.
Attorney?
Attorney, that's right.
Yeah, big time. Teacher, shoot, 100. I think they were
But I had to
120 bucks.
I had to make 2 payments.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
I've trusted you on your
That's,
on your looks alone.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you were, well.
Well, in the classroom, and then you started getting interested in politics and
Yeah.
so forth. And
I ran for judge, and that was something that
what brought all this judge business about? That?
Well, I had known Luke and Selman. I talked with them a little bit, and Luke knew I was very interested in politics. And so the last day for filing.
This is after you've been here, what, 3 years?
No. I came here in 1970, and the election was in November of 71.
Oh, okay.
So I was here
A year, basically.
a year, yeah.
A year and 6 months or 7 months.
And so in May, almost, May, the deadline would be sometime in March. I had to file. And Luke brings me down to Bob McCallan's law office and says, we've got a full ticket except for judge. We can't get anybody to run for judge. How about you? So I said, great, I'll do it. I never thought to ask the superintendent. That was crazy on my part. I should have done that. And then somebody said, do you have to be an attorney to be a judge? And I said, no, I know you don't have to. The only reason I said that was in my January interim, I found out that you don't have to be a lawyer to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. And I thought, if you don't have to be a lawyer to be on the Supreme Court of the United States, you certainly don't have to be a lawyer to be judge in Wabash, Indiana.
Yeah.
But that's not, at that time you didn't have to be, but in most courts and across the country you do.
Yeah. What judge were you running for? What judge?
Wabash City Court judge.
Wabash City Court judge.
Yeah. Lynn Ford had been the judge and he wasn't running again. And then I went ahead and filled the ticket, and we had a full ticket. My opponent was Al Plummer, who was fairly new as far as practicing law goes, but
He was a lawyer.
yeah, he was a lawyer, but as a lawyer, his grandfather and dad and the whole family had been here, and I didn't know that either.
Okay, then who's heading up the ticket then?
Jim Weiss ran for mayor, Barbara Noggle ran for clerk treasurer, and we had 7 people on the city council and myself.
And they were running against the incumbent.
Deputy Bryant.
Yeah.
All of them were, all the incumbents except for the clerk treasurer, Barbara Noggle, were Republicans.
And what happened and what were the circumstances to bring about the
Well, I
landslide?
Yes, you're right. There was a landslide. All the Republicans got kicked out, and all the Democrats got put in.
Was there a particular issue at that time?
Well, I think the Deputy Bryan had promoted some sort of a housing ordinance or zoning or something like that, and people felt that if he got reelected, I think people felt if he got reelected that he would be coming into husband and wife's bedroom to see whether there's enough square footage that they could sleep together or something like that. That was the general impression of him. And people, I attended several meetings that people were really hot about we didn't need this kind of government interference on a local level.
Mm-hmm.
So they were soundly defeated, and I don't know if it was a pro-Democrat or an anti-Republican vote, and it really didn't matter other than all the Democrats got in.
Well, here you are now. You're how old? And you're the Wabash City Court judge. How old was you then?
Let's say I was elected when I was 22.
Okay. What happens? I mean, what transpires? Obviously, you're not a lawyer, and
right. No, none of the attorneys were going to have any cases before me. They said he doesn't know what he's doing, that sort of thing. As it turned out, after about 8 months, they decided maybe we should give him a chance, because every time they ask for a change of judge, which they could, the law in Indiana says they can have a change of judge. It costs $25,
mm-hmm.
and it was getting up to like a year. It would cost maybe $3,500 for all the change of judges.
Yeah.
They did have some when Lynn Ford was judge, but it was maybe costing $800 or $1,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the attorneys, one of them, I think this is how it started. One of the attorneys forgot to file a change of judge, motion for change of judge.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back and said, I forgot to do it. They have a 10-day period in which to do that. The 10-day expired, and he came back and said, I want to do it. And I said, no, the 10 days are up. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, okay. So we went ahead with the case, and he must have thought I did a good job or adequate job. I probably found his client not guilty, so he thought, well, this guy does okay. Anyhow, after once sitting on a case, some of the attorneys said, well, let's leave him on a few more. So that's...
What was the first case you remember?
I don't know. I have no
what
idea.
it was. What kind of cases did you get then?
Mainly driving under the influence, assault and batteries, disorderly conduct, public intoxication, nothing really. Shopliftings every now and then.
Yeah. Did you think that you were making some pretty fair decisions? You thought you were Solomon right off the bat? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a big deal. We started opening the court by saying, all rise, the Wabash City Court now enters into session. And it was more formal opening that had been. And I wore a robe. That was a big deal. The former judge just,
came in his underwear if he wanted to.
Right. And you said that. I didn't. I wore a robe, black robe, and that I thought added a little dignity to
mm-hmm.
the court.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on, we started the small claims court,
mm-hmm.
where people could come in and file up to $300 or $500.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which now.
Yeah. Did you find that a rather rewarding experience?
Oh,
in
yes.
The courts and...
Very. Lawyers don't scare me now like I think they do. They frighten most people.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime a lawyer says, well, I guess we'll just have to go to court to get this big deal, that doesn't bother me now. I understand a lot of my rights as an individual and my responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
It was very helpful as far as that goes. And learning some of the legal requirements and procedures. It helped me, I think, do a better job as mayor, knowing how that operates and knowing that attorneys are a big bag of wind, just like other people. Some if they can't dazzle you with the facts, they'll try to dazzle you with bullshit.
Did you think that lawyers were trying to take advantage of you at any time? I think that they tried to run over you with...
Yes. Some of them would get mad and pound their fist and yell, but during the court.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one attorney, after I found his client guilty, he said, "This is ridiculous." And I said, "Well, you had the right to appeal."
Mm-hmm.
By God, I will.
Yeah. Were many of the cases appealed?
I think I had 2 cases appealed,
uh-huh.
and none of the appeals were overturned.
Yeah. What kind of press were you getting all along on this?
Pretty good. We initiated a couple programs. The small claims court was good. I think a lot of people, especially the small businessman, he appreciated that. We had a prisoner release program where people could, instead of go to jail, work for the city. Mm-hmm. And I thought that went over well.
Did it work?
Yeah. Well, the parking meters got fixed and some painting got done and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It was not hundreds and hundreds of people didn't participate. Mm-hmm. But those that did, I think, were helpful. Then we started we had a probation officer. That was helpful. Mm-hmm. Started a volunteers in probation where people would come in and volunteer to be a probation officer for one person. And that was very helpful, I think, in making the offender feel that we wanted to make sure that they didn't face the same problem again. And someone in the community, Reverend Berg, for example, he was a volunteer in probation and did a really fine job, outstanding job with the person he had.
Now, did the community react favorably to all of these programs, some of these programs, most of these programs?
I think most of them, they reacted favorably. I think the police felt that after they got to know me, that they felt he just lets the criminals go. And I think the police were fairly confident that I was a very lax judge and very pro-defense oriented. Mm-hmm. And I think probably eventually the prosecutor got the feeling that way too. So sometimes the prosecutor would say, I want another judge.
Yeah. You were talking about the county prosecutor?
Yeah.
Who would that have been at the time?
Well, it was Al Schlitt at the beginning. Yeah. And he had Tom Matter in the court. Mm-hmm. Al very seldom would come down, but Tom would. Mm-hmm. And then Al Schlitt was defeated by Tom Matter. Mm-hmm. And then for the last 2 years, Tom Mattern was the judge, or prosecutor. Yeah. But he was always the prosecutor. He was the deputy prosecutor in city court for my first 2 years and the prosecutor for my last 2 years.
Right. Of course, in the makeup of the city previous to maybe 15, 20 years ago, the mayor always acted as city court judge.
Right. I think
so this really wasn't a new title. You were just a guy that was getting the job before you got to be mayor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think Mitten was the last one to be mayor and Judge Bowen.
And I think they got an extra $2,000 or something for acting as judge. But I could see where that would be a difficult position, be the mayor and be the judge at the same time.
Especially politically speaking. You know, a good friend of yours comes up, or someone you're trying to get votes, and here this guy's coming before you, and you may want to put him in jail or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so you would say that the 4 years then in the city court was successful, and what was your relationship with the rest of the Democrats during this period of time?
Well, I think they were impressed that there was a young guy active in politics, and that he was elected. That was a big deal.
Well, particularly to beat a lawyer.
Not to be a lawyer.
No, to beat a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, to beat a lawyer.
Yeah,
right.
That would be outstanding.
And most of the... I was the youngest judge in the state, and we would go to judges' meetings. And in fact, I have one picture. I went to a judges' conference out in Colorado one time, and the oldest judge there was 74, and I was 26 or I don't know, 23 or 5 or something like that. We got our picture taken together.
Mm-hmm. Good. And you were getting along with the Democrats and the party and everything was harmonious at the time and so forth?
Well, I didn't know. I was not really in with the Democrats. I was a vice precinct committeeman, I think. I was Shirley Hipsher, of all people. She was precinct committeeman in 8, and I was her vice for a while. Oh. And that's how I really got to know her.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, how did your career go? You're still teaching?
I taught for, let's see, I became judge in 72. I taught in 72. I taught in 73. I taught until May of 73. Then in July or August or sometime, we started a Tom Clare Sarah Claire, Tom Claire, and I started an employment agency
Mm-hmm.
on at the corner of Miami and Market Street,
Uh-huh.
and it was called Jobs Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And we did very well for a while. Then we had the recession, and then the state employment agency opened up. And so after about, that was 70, in 1975, I guess I was elected mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And we closed the office then in September, I think, of 75.
Mm-hmm.
And I was elected in November 75.
But you had made some money in the
Yeah.
employment
Uh-huh.
agency. And,
But with the recession, and it was a good deal. I wish I had stuck with it now, because I think 75, the economy, the last quarter started turning around, I think, and 76 things picked up. And every once in a while I'll get a call and said, "You still have your employment agency?"
that's not from employees, it's a guy looking for a
That's
job.
right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So then, how did you decide that you were going to run for mayor then?
Well, I thought shortly after I was elected judge, and I would talk with Jim Weiss a lot about what he was doing and what I was doing and how the council was getting along. And I attended several of the council meetings and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, I've seen him do that, and I'm doing this, and I feel confident after about 2 years of being judge that I could probably be mayor too.
Mm-hmm.
So about 2 years into my term, I really seriously started thinking about running for mayor.
Mm-hmm. And what happened? I mean,
Well, he decided early on, he let it be known that he was a one-term, I think his first speech he ever made said, "I'm a one-term mayor." So that gave me more incentive to consider seriously running for mayor. And so around January of 1975, I talked with him, and he said, "No, he's not going to run."
Uh-huh.
And I told him that I was going to run then. So I announced sometime in January of 1975 that I would run for mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had, I think, his son, Jim Weiss's son, ran. I don't know. You ran
I ran.
for mayor. And
Jack Todd.
Jack Todd ran for mayor. That was it, right? 4 of us?
I thought there was 5.
I don't know.
I don't know. 4.
So we
Yeah.
we ran for mayor, and I
Okay.
was elected in primary.
Uh-huh.
And Lawrence Myers was my opponent.
After you got going, did you have any trouble accumulating money or?
Oh, yes.
Did you?
Yes. Just moving to Wabash, I didn't know a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know a lot of people in town. And we've talked about
Yeah.
this, that I know the people who are active in the community.
Yeah.
But I don't know the people who... I'd never heard of Lawrence Myers.
Yeah.
I'd lived in Wabash from 1970 to 1975, and I'd never heard of Lawrence Myers. Now he's going to run for mayor. I thought... I was a judge for 3 years and lived in the community 5 years, and I'd never heard of this guy. What makes him think that as an active social leader, he was going to bring anything to the office?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me if you're going to want the people to elect you mayor, that you should be active more than just in the campaign and seeking an office. You should be active in the community day in and day out, much like you are.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the majority of the people, that was one thing, the majority of the people agreed with that.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any trouble getting money? Like I said,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Jim Weiss would not help raise money for my election when I was running for mayor. He could have asked people who did business with the city if they want to make any contributions, or went out and collected money, or the county chairman could have done more. That was Jack Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And in the primary, going back before the primary, Jack Francis endorsed Jack Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was ridiculous, I thought, for a county chairman to endorse
A candidate in the primary.
in the primary. And I told him, I said, Jack, I told Jack Francis that if Jack Todd didn't win, and I did, we would have problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we did.
Mm-hmm.
and he wouldn't help raise money, and it was a very bad situation that I would have to go ask people for money, and I didn't like to do that because then they felt, somebody gives me $25 contribution, they think, my God, if he wins, I'm going to have City Hall to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that proved to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But we ran a moderate campaign as far as advertising and that sort of thing goes, because we just didn't have the money.
Mm-hmm. Who was raising the money for it? Did you have somebody raising it, or were you trying to do it yourself?
I was doing it. Don Metz was helping, doing it too. He was my coordinator, and Art Schinkel.
Yeah.
He was a big help.
What did it take to get the campaign off that year? A couple $1,000?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Prices were less.
Right. The primary was very expensive, and then added that with the general election because we got no help from the county organization.
On the general election?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and the primary and the general election, I did not, personally, I didn't go into debt for it. I didn't borrow any money or anything like that. If we didn't have it, we didn't spend it.
Yeah. So were you surprised then when you won and by the percentage?
Yes, I was surprised. We carried, in the primary, we carried every precinct. That floored me. And then in the general election, we carried 6 of the 8 precincts.
Uh-huh.
And that surprised me too.
Oh.
We were very well organized. I think that's what did it. And we had a lot of good people helping us in the fall. And I think the organization, though, is really what pulled it off.
Mm-hmm. So here you are, you're how old now?
27, I think.
27, and you're the mayor, and probably, second youngest mayor in the state then? Or
I was the youngest mayor in the state.
youngest mayor?
Mm-hmm.
Youngest ever? No.
No,
Yeah,
but just youngest elected mayor at that time.
Yeah, okay. So we step into City Hall. It's a different thing altogether now. What happened? Okay, we stepped into City Hall at 27.
Most of the city council members are the same. Jim Weiss is now gone from mayor to member of the city council, and Bill Rizzo has taken somebody's place. I forget who's on the city council. So we have 6 Democrats and 1 Republican on the city council. Maxine Mullen, who was Barbara Nagel's deputy clerk treasurer, has been elected clerk treasurer. So she and I are running City Hall on a daily basis. 6 of the council members are old pros. They've had 4 years in City Hall. And Bill Rizzo, the only Republican, is an outspoken loyal opposition party. And I think the council, they felt like they have had a lot of experience over the past 4 years. And so they were not too inclined to work with me, I don't think, very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I thought I wanted to keep them well informed, so I'd write them letters and call them up, and I spent a lot of my time doing that initially. And then one day I was talking with one of the council members about a letter I had written him, and he said, "Gosh, I just don't read that stuff." And I thought, well, if he's not going to read it, I'm not going to waste my time writing it.
Yeah.
So I quit writing the letters, and as we got more deeply involved in the administration, I quit making so many telephone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a real, I thought, unpleasant situation with Jim Weiss being the former mayor.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to act as though he was still mayor, even though he was on the council. And I was going to prove to him, by God, that he was not the mayor, that I was the mayor. And it was, I think, for the first 6 months, he wasn't even in City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
In my office, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't want to give the impression that, and I appreciated that he was trying to tell me what to do or anything like that. And I was probably oversensitive that I was the mayor and he wasn't going to tell me what to do and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
What did you find this transition smooth or rocky or
the transition from his going out of
Yeah.
office, no, it was terrible.
terrible? Why?
Well, he told me nothing as far as what was going on. I attended the council meetings, so I knew what was going on from that aspect, and I started attending the Board of Works meetings. But how the decisions were made and who was really making the decisions, that sort of thing, I didn't know. And the status of our engineering agreements and who was doing the work and why they were doing the work and what the goals were.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I found out a lot of stuff on my own after he left office and I assumed office.
Mm-hmm. Were you working hard right off the bat? I mean,
Oh yes,
yeah.
It was such a novelty. Don Metz was the city attorney, and he thought it was great getting in and finding out what was going on. And we had the city had done work with Snell Engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, after the election had ended, the city had entered into a couple agreements with this engineering firm, and we terminated them a couple months into my administration because they just were. We didn't think they were doing the best job for the city.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't understand why Jim Weiss entered into these contracts after the election, but before I took office. I couldn't understand. He asked me my opinion. I said, no, I wish you wouldn't do it. And he said, by God, I'm the mayor, and as long as I'm the mayor, we'll do it. Well, then why did he ask me my opinion?
Yeah.
But he did, and we terminated working with Snell, and we returned to Stieg, who the city's been working with since 1959 or whenever the sewage plant was built. And that was a little problem. But
Department heads, were they a problem?
the department heads, no. He had fire chief, and I kept the same fire chief that Jim Weiss had. Police chief, Bud Hetmansberger, I changed. And Jim Weiss wanted to, I guess. He talked bad about him constantly, but he just didn't do it, so I changed. And that proved later to be a little problem. Sewage plant, we kept the same guy that had the sewage plant. The park department, I didn't have any control over. They have a park board. Street superintendent, I initially kept the same street superintendent. That's about it.
Who was the city attorney then?
Bob
Previous.
McAllen was the city attorney
Previous city attorney.
with Jim Weiss.
Right.
Right.
He was a Democrat also.
He was Democrat. Right.
Yeah. I want the record. You know,
Yeah.
50 years, somebody be reading this.
Everybody was a Democrat in the Weiss administration. And now with me, I appoint Don Metz, and he's a Democrat too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you think that things are going to sail along okay? And what's the
Oh
first?
gosh, yes. My anticipation was that people would not even hardly recognize it as the same community. So many changes would be brought about. You know, they would look for their address when they would go home at night.
Yeah. Well, what did happen? And you had to run onto some big problems right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, we had a something that I don't think has ever been made too public,
Uh-huh.
and that is we had a problem with the police department. There was some sort of we initiated an investigation of the police department because there was some suspected thievery among the local police department. And we had the state police come down and investigated that. We got the county prosecutor involved and me involved and the city attorney involved. And as it turned out, there were no charges brought. And nothing officially happened.
When did they drop this on you?
January the 2nd.
January 2nd, the second day in office.
Right.
Okay, and then you solve that problem to as much satisfaction as you
Yeah.
can. And then what's the
But
next?
that took I think we finished with that in August or September.
Oh, it took that long?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Were you having any other big problems then at all?
No. That was the biggest problem I think I had
Yeah.
during the whole 4 years.
Yeah. And you got it the second day in office?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it just created an almost intolerable relationship between me and the police department.
Mhm.
And there was never a good, cooperative, coordinated, agreeable kind of relationship with me and the guy on the
Yeah.
street.
Well, this is 1976, and also it's going to be a big year in July. What happens in the community then, and what do you do, and your reactions and so forth?
July the 4th, the bicentennial, there was the Chamber of Commerce did a terrific job in promoting Wabash to come to Wabash and stay in Wabash to help celebrate July the 4th. The air balloon, hot air balloon was here, and people got to take a ride on the hot air balloon, and that was very thrilling.
Was there a big crowd?
Oh yeah, I don't know how many thousands, 2, 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
Big fireworks display. There was a big cake at the park. That's when there's a cement 3-flag time capsule kind of deal in the park, and that's when that was dedicated, and that's when why that was built. We had the dedication of that at that time. The time capsule was put in. Buttons were made. 1976 bicentennial, and the buttons were numbered. I have number 1, and so that's a collector's item, I think. And sporting events. We had basketball tournaments and baseball tournaments, and they got medals for that. It was a 2-day affair, and it was very nice.
So, did your relationship with your council then pick up during the year, or did it deteriorate? Or
no, it went from
apathy from.
It went from pretty good to downright rotten by the time the administration was over.
For what reason?
Well, I think a lot of it was we did not talk as much as we should have. I would go ahead, and I was probably more to blame than anybody for the bad relationship. I sometimes would try to I would try to make a decision without getting the council involved. And sometimes that would be a goal in itself, to get the decision made without having to go through the council. The council, I thought, did not want to make any hard decisions. That if 5 people came to a meeting and they were for something and 2 people or 10 people were against it, they would vote against it, because that's the most people who showed up. And in my opinion, you should not run a government or a business or anything by the number of hands that goes up at a meeting. And I felt that the council members were very lack in having any backbone. And that's probably harsh, and it's probably not completely accurate, but that was my interpretation of how they reacted to critical questions. So any way that we could avoid taking a matter through the council, we did, and would take it through the Board of Works.
Did the newspaper support you on all of these decisions, basically?
Well, I had very good...
That mirrors the image,
right.
supposedly.
I had very good... I thought a very good relationship with the newspaper, and they were supportive of me on almost all the programs. We built a fountain at the corner of Main Street in Wabash, and that was the biggest. People complained about that more than anything else, I believe. And it cost $17,900 and some bucks, or $890 or something like that. And people were saying it cost $35,000, $100,000, that sort of thing. There was a parking lot there before the fountain was there, and it was a gravel parking lot, dirty. You could get 8 or 9 cars in it. That's it. And so I thought, we'll change it. The city council appropriated money for a park, and they didn't specify what kind of a park, but they just wanted a park there. So I spent the money on a park, and this was a little different park than I think they had envisioned, and even I had envisioned at the time. But they appropriated the money, or the council appropriated the money, so they had no really big complaints, I wouldn't think.
If you were going back over again, would you have done the same thing on that park?
No. It just was, there was too much criticism of the park, and I guess the reason I would not have done it, I thought we did a tremendous job in cutting costs and reducing the amount of money the government spent on a daily basis. We spent more money, but it was for paving streets, putting in sidewalks. It was not for salaries and maintenance of the budget. It was more for capital expenditures. And I thought we had a good reputation of not throwing money down the drain. That the money that was spent was spent on policemen. We reduced the number of policemen we had, the number of firemen that we had, the number on the street department, the sewage plant. We reduced the number of employees that the city had at the time. We had 31, now we have 30 policemen or firemen. We had 28, now I think we have 24 policemen. We had 14 or 16 on the street department, now we have 8 or 9. And I thought that was heading in the right direction, and that we spent money well. And people got the opinion that this money was just kind of down the drain, that was spent on the fountain.
They thought it was frivolous?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was not the kind of image that I wanted, and just for that reason alone, if I had to do all over, I wouldn't have done it, because that gave people the wrong.
Yeah, and you've left me under the impression that you wanted the administration to be known for something better than what people have remembered.
We spent money more wisely than most people think that indicates.
Yeah. Do you really think, in your own opinion, do people really know what they want from government? Does the average person on the street know what he wants from his government?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think so. They want their garbage picked up, they want their streets fixed, and that's it. Basically, that's it. If you don't affect a person's house or the streets or the garbage, no problem.
Yeah.
The park system, some people complain about it, but not a lot. The police, the fire, that's up and down. Those people are the ones that are going to complain are the ones that are directly affected. Most people's homes don't burn, and most people don't get robbed or mugged or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sewage, make sure the stuff goes down the tube. That's about it.
Were there any other big decisions you think that you had to make during the administration?
Well, garbage. We went from city hauling it to private contracting out of the garbage.
And what
that was a
big
big
decision?
Well, again, we were trying to spend less money and make it more efficient, more effective, that sort of thing. We, after talking with some people and investigating it for ourselves, I determined, along with Doug Craig, who was a member of the Board of Works, a citizen representative, and Ira McClurg, who was the city council representative on the Board of Works, we three decided it would be best we could spend less dollars, have better control of the budget, to contract it out. So we did that.
Mm-hmm.
And initially that caused a lot of furor because the city wasn't spending 20 minutes cleaning up a guy's yard now. If you didn't have it bagged or sacked or bundled, it wasn't going to get picked up, and people just were not used to that.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually I think it came around, and the vast majority of people do support private contracting out of the garbage.
Mm-hmm. Did you consider any loss of patronage or anything? Or
No.
was patronage not a big
No.
item?
Patronage. We never did consider that because the street department jobs and the sewage jobs, up until the last couple of years, only the dregs of society wanted those kind of jobs. And they didn't work anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody that voted for me wanted to make sure so-and-so got a job there.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think, though, we have a good street department, we have a good sewage plant. They're well paid, much better paid than they used to be paid. They're well managed. They're proud of their job. They have better equipment than what they used to have. So I think now that situation has changed. But as far as patronage, that never came into play in any of the hiring,
Mm-hmm.
except it did in summer help. If a good supporter of mine's kid needed a job to help support him in college or her in college, or we would give them a job.
Did you have any patronage there to dispense for the summer help?
Yeah. The park department and the street department both, and sewage too. Three good areas. I didn't have a lot in the park department, but if I asked, they would usually do it. But the sewage and the street, yeah. We always needed summer help.
Yeah. We have another big job that you undertook during the administration, and that was the shirt shed. And give me a little brief history as to what they were and what they did and how they got started and how you got involved and then the results.
The shirt shed was a company started by Jim Moore, the printing of T-shirts, just an iron-on patch for T-shirts. And it started, I think, in his store in Peru. He owned a Ben Franklin store. And he somehow got started. He would go out and sell shirts and then come back to his store and print them up. And that got to be very profitable. So he lived in Wabash or something, and he got doing it in his basement. That he outgrew that. He moved to his garage, and he outgrew that. And he got located downtown somehow, and he was employing 100 or 50 or 200 people downtown, and it was stinking the place up, and they could never find any place to park, and because his employees would take the parking places. Deliveries were a problem because these big trucks would block the alleys and streets, and he had outgrown that. So he's looking for a place, and he came to me and said, I want to locate in Wabash a new factory, but I can't find any place. The price these people want for their land is just exorbitant. I can't afford it. We need to locate someplace. We've looked everywhere. The people over in Peru are saying, come on over here, we've got some space, we want you to locate. He said, I'm going to do that if I can't find a place in Wabash. But our help is here, we don't want to, get all these new people. At the same time, he was discussing this, the street superintendent, who at that time was Mike Meek, and I, had discussed the possibility of, and Mike Govan had discussed the possibility of getting a better coordination out of these two departments. They do and should work closely together. And so I thought if we moved the street department down close to the sewage plant, it would save, the personnel could be used by both of them. And we had talked about this for a year before the church had ever mentioned anything. And we were going to do it the following year. We were going to build a building down there and move it and then try to sell that land. This I thought was an ideal opportunity. I took Bill Hensley, who was the Jim Moore's help right-hand man, down there, and Jim Moore, and we looked at it, and they said, no, it's not big enough. It's too small. And they came back a week later and said, we think that's a good location. We think we can arrange it and fix it and everything. So we put that deal together, and there was a lot of controversy over that. We did not put it up for public auction. The Board of Works, not the council, sold the land. The church had built one new building, two new buildings actually. They built where the recycling station is and another half of the present barn. And then they tore down the old historical street barn.
And then they were in business.
And they've since expanded 4 or 5 times.
Grown, employed local people, and
unskilled
labor.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was a good deal for the city to get more property back on the tax roll. It was a good deal for the city residents as far as getting more people employed. We have more diversified industry now. They employed, total employment's over 500 people. So I thought everybody won.
Yeah, great. What other major accomplishments would you cite in the administration?
I think we have started a limited health insurance, self-insurance plan. That proven beneficial. We reduced the number of employees the city has. I think that's good. We started the working of the Helm Creek project, and you're having to finish getting that off the ground or in the ground or whatever. But that will add a lot to expanding Wabash's business and industrial development possibilities. That's been discussed. W.D. Bryant discussed it. I think Jim Bice discussed it when he was mayor, and we finally did something about it. After 4 years in office, we did it. We jacked up the sewage rate. People are now paying more of a fair share. It cost 27 cents a gallon to process the sewage of the big users, and they were paying 20 cents a gallon for that. We weren't even meeting the cost that it took to process the sewage. Now we are.
What kind of cooperation did you get from the business community during
The Chamber of Commerce was very beneficial to me as mayor, and I think to the city. The downtown merchants complained a lot, and I thought didn't want to do anything on their own, and were not very progressive or aggressive. But they were big complainers, constant complainers. But the Chamber of Commerce organization, Will McLaughlin headed it the first year I was in office, and he was a tremendous help. And Chris Mangle has been a big help. Don Knapp with the Honeywell Foundation, and as also a member of the Chamber, was a big help. So from the Chamber, we got nothing but support. I don't think they ever opposed any major undertaking we wanted to have. And they were quite open in their support.
What did got you started on some of the government block grants, and what was the reasoning behind it, first of all?
More money.
Yeah.
We could spend more money. There was, I thought, a definite need to improve Wabash's housing stock. We don't have enough apartments. It's tough to rent a place in Wabash. We don't have enough areas, open areas in which new subdivisions can be built. And so we thought it would be a good idea if we could reduce the deteriorating neighborhoods and fix them up if possible. I knew the city just did not have the kind of money to spend on its own and couldn't and wouldn't spend the kind of money it was going to take. So on East Hill Street and West Market Street and West Canal Street, we applied for 2 different grants 2 different times while I was in office, and we got $175,000 for East Hill Street and $1.23 million for West Market Street. And we did a lot of work as far as improving the streets and curbs and sidewalks, and a lot of work improving the houses. People would get loans or grants to put on new siding, new furnace, new windows, roof, whatever. And I think that it's still going on. And the street lights, we put in new street lights on West Market Street. It looks very nice. It's going to look better once it all gets done.
But how did you get onto this program? I mean, who brought it to your attention? Or obviously nobody else was doing it in Huntington or Peru or Marion, and they were all missing the boat.
Yeah, Jim Weiss, when he was mayor, applied for a community development block grant from HUD, and it was denied. In my first year in office, we resubmitted that grant, and it was denied again. So the next year I said, to hell with that one, let's get something a little more original. So we did that. But these meetings I would attend in Indianapolis, the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns, they were quite helpful in telling us what the latest rules and laws and regulations were, and where you might get some money and that sort of thing. That proved to be very helpful.
Because you were the only one, obviously, that was getting it, and then now the rest are getting into the act and so forth. Did the frozen tax rate motivate you to do any of this, or?
No. The frozen tax rate, I don't like to say it, only because it's a Republican governor who's initiated. I think it's been a good thing for the people of Wabash. It's kept the taxes down. The tax rate has grown a very low or moderate amount. And the city of Wabash hasn't suffered. We are, in 1980, we are below our frozen tax rate. Most cities are not in the fine financial shape that we are. But we're not hurting our pensions. We're not having to have layoffs because we can't afford to meet our bills. We're in good financial shape.
What was your relationship with the county and the state during your term? Of course, they were both Republican.
Right. The county commissioners, there were 3 of them. 2 of them I got along extremely well with. We'd go out and have coffee, and they'd call me up and ask me my opinion of this and that. And I would do the same. We got along extremely well. There was the third member that used to be on it. We didn't get along very well. And the new member that got on, we didn't get along very well. The county council, it seemed like they didn't want to spend any money in the city. County council members didn't want to spend any money in the city. But the commissioners and I got along extremely well. The majority, two out of the three got along.
That's 66%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a D.
Right.
What was your relationship then with the state?
The state, well, it depends. The highway department, we didn't have very good relations. We tried to get, Jim Bice tried to get the intersection at 13 and 15 redone when he was mayor. They promised him that it would be done. It was not done. I asked every year I was mayor that be redone. They said it would be redone. It has never been done yet. It took 8 months to get Wabash Street. We had a horrible winter, 1978 or 9 or something. And chuck holes were just, it was the worst street I've ever seen. Was that or something?
The bird line in the window.
But, so as far as the State Highway Commission, we didn't have the greatest cooperation. And it was hard, I thought, to get that department to do anything. The State Planning Services Agency, we had a moderate amount of success with them. We got a grant, and then we had to spend more money to administer the grant than the grant was worth. And that was confusing and ridiculous and not worthwhile. I didn't think the State Planning Services Agency was very well managed. The guy who had been there got canned, and now they have a new one who is apparently doing a very good job.
How about your relationship then with the at the federal level?
Basically, our connection was with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I was very much impressed with all of them, and I think they were impressed with the city of Wabash. We got 2 grants, and they were continually telling us what a good job we were doing of administering the grants. That made us feel good. So I think there was a good relationship there.
Yeah. Now you had 2 senators. One was a Democrat and one was Republican. Were you getting any cooperation out of either of them?
Well, we had the energy crisis in 1977, I believe, where we had to cut back on gas, natural gas, and we really didn't get a lot of cooperation out of, at that time, it was Senator By and Senator Harkey, I think. And we didn't get much cooperation out of either one of them. There was nothing anyone could do other than talk about it, and they didn't do that. And it was affecting, Marcon had to close down or reduce its production or something. And it was really a threat to our local industry, and there was just very little that could be done. Then the following year, we had the electricity shortage. We had to turn out our street lights, and that was a pain too. And we had 3 bad winters while I was mayor.
Yeah.
Today it's probably 40 degrees out, no snow. So you've got it made as far as this year goes. I think it's great.
What particular problems did you have on the 2? Well, you had the blizzard of 78, and then you had the big snow and...
We had 3 bad winters, and it was icy, snowy.
Yeah.
We had so much snow we were finally dumping it in the river. We ran out of places to dump it. It was, I mean, we had one year, I think we had 8 or 12 or 15 feet of snow altogether. It was terrible. And people would complain, and that's one of the years I went to California, and I was on the Family Feud television show. And that was like a week after the heavy blizzard, and I was in sunny California having a great time, and the people back here, and I got phone calls, why were you there when we were suffering here, and you should have been at the job, not vacationing, and that sort of thing.
Did you get much criticism from people, or do you think it would be the same people who would be critical of everyone?
I think it's the same people who basically would be critical of whoever is in that position. Most people, I think, were satisfied. There were individual things that people didn't like. The fountain was one thing. They would complain about that. Some people grew to like it. The garbage collection, almost everybody criticized that, and I think most people treated like it. Budgets, it was always too much. People criticized that. But the same people who are vocal and critical of what goes on in the national, state, local government are the same ones that criticize me because I was here on a daily basis. They didn't have to call me up or they didn't have to write me a letter. They could see the mayor go downtown or see him walking around or something like that. But I think basically the same people who criticize everything were the ones who were critical of me.
Mm-hmm.
And if a lot of people say, you may have helped me yesterday, but what have you done for me today?
Mm-hmm.
How have you helped me directly today?
Mm-hmm.
And that was difficult to learn to work with.
Yeah.
But my phone did not ring off the hook. We did not get a continual flood of complaints on a daily basis.
Well, we'll ask some more reflections of the government when we get on to that, but let's get on to 1979 and what happened. You decided not to run. For what reason? Right.
Well, basically it was for health reasons that I decided not to run. The public was sick of me.
Okay.
Not really.
I thought maybe that vasectomy had failed.
No, the reason I didn't want to run is I'd done it for 4 years. I thought it would be almost a regular job. I thought I'd done everything I wanted to do the first 4 years, or else I had found out that I couldn't do it in 4 or 8 or 12 or however many I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 31, and if I had ran and one had been 35, and that's too old, I think, to start another career.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get into something. The money was not what I wanted to be making. I thought I could make more, and as it turned out, I can't. But the challenge I thought was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done it. I'd been in Wabash 10 years, elected official 8. I felt like I was almost in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get out of that. It was purely personal reasons. I wanted another challenge, and I'd one time thought about running for lieutenant governor until I found out how much money it would cost, and I quickly decided that I didn't want to do that either. But I wanted another challenge, and I thought I was young enough I could get something else and get a little more money and have a good time.
Uh-huh. So you decided to...
I thought it was almost... in January of 1975, I announced I was going to run for mayor, and in January of 1979, I announced that I would not run.
Mm-hmm.
And a little emotional there.
Yeah. What had you gone up through the party hierarchy in
Yes.
the county and in the state, or just in the county?
The county, I was
Some guy 50 years from now, you say, who in the hell is that stoop interviewing? I mean, he was the mayor?
I was precinct committeeman. I had been a committeeman. I was vice county chairman, and now I'm county chairman.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I did everything.
You worked your way up through the ranks.
Yeah, no, nobody gave me anything. I had to work and get elected and all that stuff.
Okay. You decide not to run, and then what happened?
I was thinking about buying Hamer Printing Company, and I worked down there, and I find out that I didn't want to do that. I think I would have liked to do it, but I didn't know all the technical aspects of printing, and I was learning, but Mr. Hamer was... Has he died?
No.
He's been...
Hard of hearing.
Yeah, but he has been sick.
Yeah.
And it was very hard of hearing. I mean, he was deaf.
Yeah.
And I couldn't learn from him, and it was frustrating, and he didn't want to sell it right away because he wanted me to know more about it.
He was only 90 and he didn't want
it. He was only 90 and he thought there was no need to retire. So I talked with some other people, and I talked to Bill Hensley and Jim Warden. They said we would like for you to come to work for us.
Uh-huh.
So I did. I went to work for them. About the last 4 months I was in office, I went to work on a part-time basis for them. And I got some criticism for doing that, not being a full-time mayor, and I can understand that. Especially after you run on the proposition that you're going to be a full-time mayor.
Yeah.
But I thought, I've got to start the transition from not being mayor to making some money and that sort of thing. So I'm now an employee of the Short Shed.
Mm-hmm. Did the way the mayor's race went in 1979, did that surprise you? Would you have anticipated that in January '79 that everything was going to turn out the way it did?
No, I don't think anybody.
Now you had a
soap opera.
Yeah, you had a public service NIPSCO, Public Service Indiana. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
There on the Democrat ticket.
This was in the primary.
In the primary, there on the Democrat ticket there were 9 candidates for mayor, just on the Democrat, and 2 on the Republican ticket.
Yeah, you're counting Albert Owen dropping in and out as
yes.
1 each.
No, the Democrats had not had that many candidates for a whole ticket, let alone just for one
job.
One job.
Why do you think that the Democrats were so confident that they were going to take it again?
Well, I like to think it was the incumbent Democratic administration had done a marvelous job,
Yeah.
and we had a great county chairman.
Yes.
So there was so much excitement
Yeah,
in the
but what was
Democratic
the
Party.
truth, though?
I don't know. I think apparently people thought the job must be important. And so I'll try, which is good. I think 990 would be better.
Yeah.
But I think there were just a lot of different reasons people decided to run, one of which it's a pretty good job. You can have a lot of fun. It's a big challenge. And if he did it, surely I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I'd go along, but I'm asking your opinion. Somebody can interview me someday. Why, with 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it happened, 9 happened to be running in the primary, and then the Republicans only could find 2. And do you think that they thought they were beat right off the
Yes, I think
from
so.
the start?
Yes. In fact, the night of the primary election, Earl Ravenscroft came over to John Minor, who won the election, and said, "John, I know you're going to beat me." Because I was standing right there. He said, "I know you're going to beat me, but we'll have a good time anyhow."
Yeah.
So I think Earl had already, and that election, in the primary election for mayor in 1979, that was the first time that I know of that the Democrats outpolled the Republicans in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the Republicans would beat the Democrats in the primary 2-1 anyhow. But this time the Democrats outpolled the Republicans.
Do you see that as maybe a trend in the town, or
Yes.
finally
yes.
in the city?
Yes. Not the county, just the city. The county will always go Republican. I think there'll have to be another miracle before the Democrats control anything in the county.
What happened then? This, after all, we're doing a tape. Is what happened after the primary, and you're the county chairman, and you're getting ready for the fall election.
I'm the mayor,
right.
Incumbent mayor. I'm the county chairman, and I'm trying to work with the man who was elected, who was nominated to be the Democrat candidate, and he's an employee of mine. John Minor was the building inspector, so it was almost an incestuous kind of. Everything was interrelated. He decides, I think, in June or July or in the middle of the summer, that he's got to resign as city building inspector and also as candidate for mayor. He lost a lot of weight, 40 pounds or something like that. He was under intense pressure, I think, from all factions of the party.
Why?
Well, all the various segments of the party wanted to control what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he couldn't take that.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of it anyhow. And the best thing would be to resign.
Were you in accord with that decision, or did he even ask you? You were the county chairman.
No, he didn't ask me.
Mhm.
But once I found out that he was thinking about it, I encouraged him to do that.
Mhm.
So he did. He resigned, and then in August, I forget, August the 14th,
Yes,
keep being...
Meeting at Honeywell.
Yeah, we had a meeting at Honeywell, and that was unique also. The law stated that the county organization must nominate the mayor candidate, not just the people in the city. So all these people from Wabash, North Manchester, LeGros, Laketon, Rowan, anybody who wanted to, who was a member of the Democrat Party Precinct Committeeman or Vice, comes.
Okay, we were talking about the caucus, or whatever you want to call it, to nominate the
We had all these
mayor.
people here, and Jim Bice, who was on the city council and had been mayor, now wants to be nominated again, and George Dingledye, who did not run in the primary. Had he, that'd been 10 people in the primary. He didn't run in the primary. We had several of the, well, one, I guess. There was only one person who'd run in the primary stand up and say, I think you ought to nominate somebody who ran in the primary. And then the other 9 candidates, the city council and the clerk treasurer and the judge, they have signed a petition, and it says all the candidates running in the fall election unanimously have agreed that they want Jim Bice to be the mayor candidate. So we hold the election, and George Dingledye is nominated.
Mm-hmm.
So that causes another rift.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's mad at everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm thinking there's a good possibility that we may not get a Democrat in because of the bad split between the party. So, being good Democrats, I think we can pull together. And by the time November comes around, everybody will be unified, everyone will love each other, and the whole darn ticket will be elected. That didn't happen. A week or so before the election, the candidates who ran in the primary, several of them wrote a letter to the editor and put an ad in the newspaper saying, we urge you to elect Earl Ravenscroft mayor. And I didn't know what kind of reaction that was going to have on the voting public. And as it turned out, George Dingledye won by 16 votes.
Mm-hmm. Did he come to you, or did you seek him out?
George came to me and said, I'm thinking about running for mayor. What do you think about that? And that really put me in a bind because I had already told Jim Bice that yes, I would go with Jim Bice. But I would much prefer to see George Dingledye mayor than Jim Bice.
What were the repercussions and so forth that decision that you made?
Jim Bice no longer speaks to me.
Mm-hmm. You go to church together.
Yeah, right. No, we don't. And that made me feel badly. I had given a commitment that yes, I would support Jim Bice, and then I backed down from that commitment. And I don't like to think I do that often, but I did in this case. And I had several reasons for doing it. I don't want to discuss them now, but
yeah, okay.
But it was not right for me to do that.
Uh-huh.
I should have at least gone to Jim Bice and said, I told you I'm not going to. I told you I was going to support you, but I decided now I'm not going. But I didn't even do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you see now as you're leaving 4 years and you're going to leave the community and so
Moving
forth?
to Los Angeles.
Moving to Los Angeles, yeah. Okay. What are your impressions and reflections of the 10 years now that you've been in Wabash?
When I first moved here, I had never heard of Wabash.
Mm-hmm.
The river I knew and the railroad, but not the community. And I thought it was a very sleepy kind of community. And I didn't think a lot of people around the state of Indiana had heard of Wabash. And it seemed to be a fairly progressive community, though, and very financially sound as far as fiscal management of its government goes. And I think I didn't have a long-lasting impact. I think I was more of a caretaker. It was good. We did a lot of programs like the HUD money. That's good. I think Wabash now sees itself as a thriving, progressive community, and I think the people are a little more proud of the community. That's the impression I get. But basically, it's made up of very good people, and they're going to continue to live here, and they're going to continue to make it a dynamic town. And there are some things that I thought had to be done, like the Helm Creek Interceptor, if we were to continue to grow. And the commitment was made. Let's do it. It was close. The vote was close, but it was done, and that's going to really benefit the community, I think.
What do you think the biggest frustration has been in the 10 years?
I would say the county government and the city government not joining hands and working toward common goals. There are so many things that both the city of Wabash and the town of North Manchester and the county of Wabash have in common, and we could all three work together. But there isn't much of that. There's not much government coordination of activities at any level in Wabash County.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
was
so
that
much.
frustrating?
Oh yeah, there's so much that could be done, and the county has so much money, and it's just pilfering it away. I think on the city residents get very little benefit out of paying county taxes. Most of it goes for new roads out in the country or new bridges out in the country or something like that.
Maybe the system ought to be changed.
Well, I don't have any quarrel with that. I think.
Would you advocate Unigov here for Wabash?
Yes, definitely.
And it'd be Republican forever then.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I don't know. I just think that a similar kind of government like that for Wabash would be much more beneficial to the community.
Yeah. But as I say, you'd never see another Democrat in any office.
That's probably right.
Yeah. Now, what are you going to do? What are your goals for the rest of your life? You're 32? 31. And what are the goals?
Well, I want to I really don't have any well-established, defined goals. I want to be a success at this sales job that I have. I don't know how much, I haven't yet decided how much money I want to make. I assume that if I make my age, that as much money as my age is, that I would be doing.
That's $31 a year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
And if you can save 31 cents, you're very well off.
Tithing, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I ever want to seek an elected office again.
Why?
I just don't think that I don't know what I could do besides. I would not feel comfortable being a congressman or a senator or something like that. I don't think I'm qualified for that. And I would, around here anyhow, I wouldn't want to be mayor again or county commissioner. Same old problems.
Yeah. Would you consider taking an appointed state job? Or
Yeah, I
an
would
appointed
think
federal job?
something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to be a bureaucrat, and I don't want to suck off the public, because they've, as a teacher and as judge and as mayor, they've been, it's, I've always gotten paid from the public till, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to see what it's like to go out, and if you work hard and do good, you make money, and if you don't, you don't make money. I want to know what kind of frustrations and challenges and irritations that creates.
You think that you'll be back to Indiana, or?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to like my new job when I get out there, and how well they will like me doing the job I'm going to do. And
this is.
I may really like Los Angeles and stay out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want to stay flexible. If I move there, I don't want to be tied down to staying there. There's a job in Saudi Arabia. I want to be able to go there, or whatever.
Yeah. Great. Anything else that you can think of that we haven't discussed? Family?
No.
Job? Church? What was the relationship with the church here?
I belong to the Christian church here, and I'm a deacon at that church. I'm going to have to resign that now when I move.
Did you enjoy your association?
Oh yeah, it was very helpful to me. I would have certain frustrations or irritations, and Dr. Cartwright, who was the minister, very good, very dynamic, and he was very helpful, and the church as a body was very supportive, I thought.
Uh-huh. And you
So that was
enjoyed
good.
the fellowship and
Yeah,
the relationship and so forth.
I taught Sunday school 1 year,
Uh-huh.
but that was too much like teaching,
Yeah.
and the 7th and 8th graders who I taught didn't care about the Bible, and they cared, but they didn't. They would rather talk about baseball and basketball and hot dogs and.
Mhm. Did you ever join any clubs? Did you join
Kiwanis.
Kiwanis
I was a
club?
member of the Kiwanis Club, and I dropped out of that.
You never belonged to the country club or
No.
to the Eagles or the Moose or
Yeah, I belong to the Moose and the Elks.
the Elks? Did you ever get active or
No, I was just
passive?
yeah.
Knife and fork member.
That's right. That's and a beer drinking.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I can't. Can you think of anything else that we
No.
haven't covered? And I think that we can. If you do, you can just write it on there and scratch it on the edge or something like that, and say insert this here. I forgot to tell you.
Okay.
And, thanks, Mike, for the interview. And this
Thank
is
you.
George Dingledye, interviewer.